Yeah, I was gonna say I took us off again. Yeah. Speaking of capitalism, I'm still pissed about this. Like I'm.
It's interesting because I'm aware of how you feel because you've done a video, you've talked about it a bit, and we can get into that. I'm sympathetic, but at the same time, I have more of a understanding from the business side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's just due to my last decade of work experience.
For me, so for everybody who is not aware, and I'd be very surprised if you've been on social media that is tangential to Wizards. Hasbro is laying off 1,100 more employees. They made the announcement last week, and Wizards has not escaped the axe this time. There are a significant number of Wizards employees who've been fired, and this is despite the fact that Wizards is the highest producing division of Hasbro at the moment. And also, this is, if you're listening to this in the future, this is happening the second week of December in 2023. So literally right before the holidays, these bunch of people are now on the unemployment line, which sucks.
You know, for Black Friday sales, you're supposed to slash prices, not jobs.
You have a sheet of paper with those written down on it.
No, I don't.
I was gonna say you're gonna be dropping the puns throughout the whole.
No, it's a serious topic, but yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about like it's a crappy time of year, and it really is because there's no great time to get laid off, but
yeah,
is it the time of year where people tend to spend the most money?
Yeah,
and it's not exactly a great job market out there, which it's not Hasbro's fault. It's not Hasbro's fault that the economy is the way it is. And it's mostly their fault that their company is the way it is, though.
The two things that really chafe me about this whole situation is the fact of when it's happening during the year. I have a saying that I've said many times on the channel over the years, and that is business is gonna business. Like business is going to do what business is going to do. These massive companies are gigantic monoliths, and the people at the top make these decisions, and you just got to deal with it most of the time. But the fact that it's happening at this time of year and the way it happened is incredibly frustrating to me. The other piece is I love Transformers as much as the next guy. And I don't want to see Transformers designers and developers and whatever to be fired and laid off. But, and this is where the capitalism in me is going, if you have a division that is underperforming and you have a division over here that is essentially carrying the company, why are you going to cut from that division? Like, you're just going to make it worse for the future for that overperforming division. It already was going to be a Herculean task for Wizards to continue performing at the level they need Wizards to perform so they can hit their marks. And now they have just completely hamstrung themselves by laying off a whole bunch of talented folks.
So there's a lot that goes into it, and I can't speak to Hasbro, how their company is structured, or any of that. I'm also not a lawyer or a financial analyst, right? So everything I say is my opinion.
And ditto from me.
What I've seen in the past with different companies, and I've worked at one that was in a death spiral, right?
Uh-huh.
And I've been at companies while they've had rounds of layoffs while they're making profit. So it's not necessarily something that's just a, hey, we're not doing well, we're losing money, we're cutting jobs. That is a thing that happens. It's the trimming the fat, and sometimes you cut off more than fat when you trim.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately the truth. What tends to happen is the first round of people that are let go are positions that were growth minded, and it might not be growth market anymore.
Yeah.
So if you have big projects in line that just aren't coming to fruition, or other things that maybe weren't supported well, didn't go over well. So let's say the Barbie movie was a flop, right? Mm-hmm. You'd probably be starting to cut people from whatever division was responsible for their input into that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Same thing with like if Transformers was doing terribly, which I have no idea how it's doing. I know there's more movies than people know anymore because people stop paying attention.
Yeah.
But that's licensing, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with their TV shows, and you have the products and the toys, and those are on shelves all the time. You hardly ever see them sold out, and it's kind of an in general problem they have, because circle back to it, but you have to ask yourself, what are the toys that are being bought nowadays, right? And really Hasbro's biggest toy market is board games and toys like Transformers and other things that are their IPs. Well, when kids are more interested in video games and YouTubers, guess what they're not buying anymore? It's Transformers. It's not Barbies. Like, there's LOL dolls, there's Brat dolls, there's all these other things out there. Those shelves are full, right? And it's whatever catches your kids' eyes, what they want. They don't care about a brand.
There's really not. It's not like it was when we were kids. And I realize I sound incredibly old saying that. When we were kids, and let me speak for myself. When I was growing up, we had basically we had cable, we had the main channels, ABC, CBS, NBC, and we had cable. And because of that, Nickelodeon, that sort of stuff. Because of that, what we were being fed in terms of our entertainment was heavily controlled. It wasn't as controlled as it was when my dad was a kid, but it still was much more controlled than it is with my kids, because my kids, it's whatever they see that's shiny on Netflix or Disney, or it's still controlled, but it's not nearly as controlled. It's almost like YouTube in a sense. On YouTube, the thumbnails and titles are extremely important. When I was my son's age, I was massively into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I loved them. They were but that was what I wanted. Those are the toys I wanted, and that's it. My son, so you've got Gujitsu. He likes Gujitsu. He likes Bugs Life, or not Bugs Life. Bug Snacks. Oh, geez. I'm forgetting. There's a whole bunch of others. There's a whole bunch of others, but it's like you get him a toy or any Lego stuff, you get him a toy from any of those, he'll be happy. He's not, just like you said, he's not tied to a brand. And I think Hasbro and Mattel are struggling a little bit on how to figure that out. And it's telling that the only division of Hasbro that's doing incredibly well is the Wizards of the Coast division, because it's playing in a space that does not appeal to just younger people. It appeals to a particular niche. And I think that's telling. I think that's really telling. If you look at all of their properties, a majority of their properties is still trying to play in that space of brands, like you were saying, like a toy brand, or like a toy, characters and stuff like that. With Wizards, they're playing in a niche of card games, role-playing games, that sort of thing.
Magic the Gathering is definitely a game where people have money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, Hasbro has no way of capitalizing on the secondary market, right? Which is probably the biggest thing that hurts them, right? Like, all this money they make is the primary market.
But I will say the counter to that is Secret Layers. Secret Layers.
That and Arena.
Yeah, and Arena. But I think Secret Layers is even more so, because all you need to do is look at how they price them. Like, yeah, they may not be getting $80 for that Ulamog Ceaseless Hunger, but they can get away with charging maybe $10 more for that Secret Layer, and they will, they'll sell it for $50, or even if they keep it at the same price. I think they did keep it at the same price. Yeah, they're selling it for essentially half off of what you'd get on the secondary market, but I guarantee you they sold a lot more of them because Ulamog was in that serial Secret Layer.
Well, that, and I think about a few of the other Secret Layers I bought specifically because there was chase cards I wanted that were cheaper to buy the whole layer than it was the card itself.
Exactly, and that right there is capitalizing on the secondary market. Yeah, they may not be getting as much as the secondary market bears, but they're getting more sales, just so it is helping their bottom line.
I did a report on Mattel back when I started my master's, and they weren't doing too hot then either. They were trying to go through this whole restructuring and like reinventing themselves and trying to get more into like these games that kids can play that utilize their stuff, right? And I think they've done a decent job because you have all these Hot Wheels variants of racing games now and stuff like that too, right? And like they're at least in the space. They're doing their thing. I don't know, because like buying a bunch of plastic for really cheap that just kids love. My son loves his cars. But it's the same thing with the other stuff. And maybe that's the problem, is like these IPs that my kids keep going for aren't Hasbro, right? I'm the one that's funneling money into Hasbro.
Well, but I think that's a very good point. Mattel is leveraging their properties better than Hasbro is outside of Wizards, because for example, my son, he likes Hot Wheels. He gets Hot Wheels, but you know what he likes more? He likes that Hot Wheels racing game that just came out for all the all the video game things. When was the last time there was a good Transformers game? I keep going back to Transformers, but it's the one that's just coming on the top of my head right now. But you see my point.
Let's rephrase that question. When has there been a good Transformers game?
Exactly.
It's been a long time. I remember there being one on like it wasn't the N64, but it was like right around that time frame, like PS1 era almost. There was one, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
Even the movies haven't been great since the first couple, but that's besides the point.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't think Hasbro is leveraging their properties in a way that like Mattel is.
I'd be surprised if they don't start offloading chunks of their company for IPs that aren't doing well, or just shutting them down entirely.
Yeah.
From what I was looking at in the financials, there was a pretty hefty chunk of what looked like cash they were owed that they're selling at a discount rate, and I could be wrong, but it's a liability that they're selling and offloading. So I think they're trying to cash out on some things to get more liquid assets. And this was the October financials, right? Even then, like they mentioned in there heavily that Wizards of the Coast is their big money maker.
Yeah.
But it's concerning when you see that, though, because they bought Wizards back in '99 and they've had them for quite a while now, right? It's 24 years. That's math. So like they've had for 24 out of 30 years.
Yep.
And it's not like they just bought something that was making money and then said, okay, we'll go make more money, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't say they didn't nurture this company, however much they've had hands into its operations, that being because Wizards has to pay their overlords. It's still concerning. It's concerning when you see cuts were made in that department too. And like I was circling back to what I was saying earlier, I don't know if those were, oh shit, we need to cut money and just cut people like middle management, which also happens a lot.
Yeah.
Or divisions that aren't doing too well, whatever be projects, hopefully not the whatever studio they're working on the show. But when you start cutting people from divisions that are making money, you have to ask, was it because they had too much headcount and they can operate with less? Or was this truly a move to just try to grab pennies where they can?
Yeah.
And I don't think they're at that point yet, to be fair, from what I was looking at. They're definitely not there. They have more cash than they have debt.
Yeah.
They're not making money overall, but they're losing less. But I don't think this quarter is going to be too great. Depends on how the holiday season was. Again, I'm not a financial analyst.
Yeah.
The big thing I didn't like to see when I was looking at the stock prices, which for anyone who doesn't know, stock price is a good indicator of your worth as a company based on what people are willing to pay for a share of ownership of your company. Yahoo is showing that Hasbro is being overvalued quite a bit right now. Its price is higher than it should be. That their financials are going to be coming out here in a few weeks. But this last dip they had recently and their value, and it was like right around the time where they made these layoff announcements, is the lowest their stock price has been since 2013. And it was only low then because they were going up to it. They never went back down to it since then.
Oh, geez.
Like even the pandemic drop they had was close, but not as low.
Yeah.
Right. Like we've reached new lows on value. And that's really bad when you look at the entire stock market and how it is post pandemic and all these inflated values everywhere. And the fact you're inflated at like $51 is not good.
Yeah. And Bank of America, I've reported on this a couple of times, but Bank of America has been essentially saying the same thing for, 6 months now, at least, maybe even more. They basically been saying that Hasbro, the only reason why their stocks are as high as they are, and this was all before the recent dip, is because of Wizards of the Coast, and Hasbro is milking Wizards of the Coast too hard, is expecting WotC to perform consistently at this level for at least the next couple years to hopefully keep the stock price where it is and move it up. And that is an unrealistic expectation. Like, it is unrealistic to expect that every new Magic set that comes out will be the best selling set up to that point. I think Aftermath just completely torpedoed that idea, There's
so much market saturation for their own products. We've been looking at it for the past few months too, where there's been so many, not just sets, but products, like IP type stuff, just like you have your Warhammer, you have your Doctor Who Fallout's coming out, you have your Lord of the Rings, you have your Master sets, you have your Horizon sets, you have it's non-stop. And even then, I feel like I'm missing things because then you have your secret layers. I saw a spoiler earlier today for the freaking APAC, which is the Asian Pacific something market, right? So like China, Korea, Japan, and Australia, that whole market, that region, everything in between, right?
Mm-hmm.
The promos they're getting for the Year of the Dragon, right? And I want those. I can't get them here. At what point do we have no more money to throw at them?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing. Like, I do think that we have entered the age of Magic where, you know, for lack of a better term, not everything is for you. Like, you know, that's a meme in the community. But it has become the standard now. Like you have to pick and choose now. Gone are the days, and we're literally 5-6 years past the era where you as a player, even a middle of the road, middle income player, could keep up with all the products. Like, you know, up until about 5 or 6 years ago, you could reasonably expect to be able to purchase a box for every set that comes out and get, you know, buy packs and collect what you want and get it and be involved in a set and go to a couple of events and all that for every set that comes out. And I'm probably, again, I'm showing my age. It's probably more like 7 or 8 years now that I think about it.
About when I stopped playing.
Yeah. But it was probably about 7 or 8 years ago whenever it started to ramp up.
What's interesting with that too is like, think about these last few sets, and you're probably not the same as me because you draft, right? I honestly can't be bothered to look at every card that came out.
Yeah.
There's too much. It's like, oh, that's a cool card. And then it's like, I might add it to a deck or something, but like, because Commander's the staple now, people aren't having to rotate their entire collection every year.
Yep.
So like, what do you do?
I think on a certain level, that's okay. You know, like if this is the level that Wizards is going to operate at, okay, fine. Then you just have to pick and choose. You just have to go, okay, what sets am I going to care about and which ones am I going to ignore? And that's fine. And I think that's a valid way to experience Magic. The problem is, and this is where I see Hasbro starting to, I guess for lack of a better term, milk everything too much, is the fact that, and I'll take Lost Caverns of Ixalan as an example. You know, I'm obviously going to draft it. You know, I have decided, even though I really like the art and everything, I'm not going to buy a box for it. You know, financially, I'm saving up for other stuff, so I'm going to skip that part of this set, but I'm still going to draft it. There are still so many damn cards and so many treatments and so many things in this set, and I have a feeling it's going to be the same for Karlov Manor, that I'm having a hard time keeping track of everything within a single set. You know, and that's getting to be a little too crazy. Like, that's where I'm like, okay, well, this is too much.
Right. No, it is. And like, it's funny too, because if you think not too long ago, we had this little card here called Mondrak, I believe is what it's called.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Where everyone was flipping a shit because it's finally another white token doubler, right? Like, what did we get in this last set? A token tripler. Like, what is even going on anymore?
Well, and that's a funny thing. Like, I've mentioned in previous episodes that I do listen to Mark Rosewater's Drive to Work podcast, and he often talks about in the early years of design, they were pushing the boundaries you would expect for them to push early on, like what, you know, the most expensive creature, the biggest creature, that sort of thing. And he often talks about how like they would be designing a set, and he would say, hey, can I do a 9/9 in this set? You know, we've only done an 8/8 so far. Can I do a 9/9? And the head of design at the time would say, hey, well, let's hold off. We don't want to rush these things. You know, we would, you know, because once we do it, we can't ever do it the first time again. So let's hold off. And so they would hold it for a couple of sets, and then they would release it, and, you know, and then it would be a big thing. Like, oh, wow, they made a 10/10 or whatever the hell it was. And then, yeah, you're right. We went. It wasn't even a year. We go from Mondrak to Odrek, Odrage, whatever the heck. God, that was
off topic, but like the reason I struggle to say its name is because every time I look at it, I think of Modak. I think is his name.
Modak.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not Modak.
Yeah, no, not Modak. I just remember I was talking to a buddy. And he had gotten like that, like the lucky SOB. That was what I call his chase card of the set. He pulled, I want to say, 6 of them over the course of us playing. And, you know, like, and because it was chasing him. Like, he pulled so many. And I remember, like, it was the 6th one, and I was like, oh, you pulled, what did I call him? I threw out a teeth reference. I was like, oh, you pulled out, you know, Toothless or something. And he was like, what? And I was like, have you actually looked at the art of Mondrak? And he was like, no. And I was like, dude, get up in there. Take a look. He got it real close up to his face. And then he started going, ew, ew. And I was like, yep. Thought that was just too funny. I
still stand by that set had too many teeth.
Oh yeah.
Like someone like was very, very committed in their notes to the artist of teeth. Oh man. Yeah, no, like the whole thing, it sucks, and it's bad, and Magic players only really care because it's the parent company to the company that sells us our crack, right?
Yeah.
And like, again, I'm no financial expert. I buy Magic cards. That should tell you how bad I am with money. Now, the thing though is like, we worry, and it's like, if the company tanks, I hope they at least spin off or sell Wizards and let them continue to make money somewhere. And that's going to probably, if Hasbro does start going down the toilet, that'll happen. But I don't think they're going to do that yet, because that's what's keeping people fed.
So my take on it is, I don't like seeing this because, yes, the thing of my bigger concern is, I think this risks Magic suffering because of this. I think Magic and Dungeons and Dragons are going to suffer because of these decisions being made now. And also, I hate to see people laid off, like that, just in any capacity. And yes, I am bitching about this like more than I am about, when Hasbro did the 800 last time. But at the same time, like it's not a great time of year, and just it is affecting something that I care deeply about. That being said, I do not think that it is entirely possible that Hasbro goes under. Does this, is this a bellwether of that? I like you said, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't see the future. Obviously, I think the stock would probably be doing worse if this was super bad. I don't think Hasbro is going anywhere. But if it were to go somewhere, I do not think Wizards would go with it. And a big reason for that is some of you may remember, those listeners may remember that last year in 2022, I think it was 2022. Yeah, it was most of 2022. There was this bizarre situation going on with essentially it was an attempted hostile takeover of the Hasbro board. And it was of this company that it essentially was called Free Wizards. Was the thing under it. And their whole shtick was they wanted to take over Hasbro and spin off Wizards into its own company, because they felt that Hasbro was not leveraging Wizards properly. The reason why I think that says that Wizards is never going to go under is because there will be a buyer. And not only that, but also I think there would probably be investors who would be willing to step in and spin it off into its own thing. Again, I don't think any of this is really going to happen. I don't think this is going to end Wizards of the Coast.
No, definitely not. If anything, I think we can all just hope that maybe we get better quality products. That is less quantity and better quality. Not less better. Like it sounded like when I said it, but no, because like I keep seeing these photos of people getting Pringles and cards that got crinkled in the packs, and just in general, like give us something we like to collect. Give us something that we're happy to have. Yeah. There was a point where I threw out a stack of foiled lands because they were so prinkled I couldn't keep them.
Yep,
like it was just trash. I just couldn't do it, and I know I'm not the only one, right?
Oh yeah.
Just a thought, and I would just want your quick opinion on it. What if we got a Pringles secret layer?
That would be great. It would be funny is if something would happen where Wizards got spun off or something, and the first secret layer they did after that was the goodbye Hasbro commemorative Pringles, the last Pringles we ever sell, because we're actually going to get our shit together and get the cards okay. And that about does it for today. You can find DM Dingo on Twitch or on the FDS Discord. You can find me, FDS MTG, here on YouTube, FDS MTG, as well as on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, FDS MTG, basically everywhere. Also on TikTok as well. Thank you so much for listening, and you all have a wonderful day.